Professor, is this case really about cuts in federal funding or simply an excuse by the Trump administration to punish Harvard University?
Well, it appears to most of us that this is a steady attempt by the federal government to exert more centralized control over how American universities operate and to hold them more accountable for things that the body's politic might find distasteful or inappropriate. And so this is accelerated to a level that I think started with the Obama administration in some ways, with more exertion of control over higher education, but has reached what we often in the United States refer to as the nuclear level, potentially withdrawing all federal support for an institution. And this battle portends to continue for some time.
So what is at stake here when you cut long-term research projects, when you cut off funding? What does that mean for things like cancer, infectious diseases, Parkinson's disease?
This could have a significant effect in terms of how many institutions operate. And, Harvard faces the prospect of returning to a scale of operation from almost a century ago if this continues. I do think that the federal government will be looking to fund some institutions with research that may be comparable to what has occurred before. And perhaps Harvard and others will work out their difficulties with the federal administration. But we certainly are in an unprecedented time of conflict with the federal administration over what had once been a fairly laissez-faire system of generous grants from the federal government. Now, I think American colleges, not just Harvard, are contending with the existence of what has become a Trojan horse. The federal government is now inside, and this does mimic, to some extent, what a lot of other nations around the world do with their higher education systems, more command and control oriented. And the American system of higher education isn't quite used to this level of, shall we say, political intervention.
Yeah, I mean, college campuses and universities are supposed to be a bastion of free speech where diverse ideas are explored, debated. Even sometimes those ideas are not necessarily most popular, but how do you balance that with the obligation to protect students, to prevent hate, harassment, and discrimination?
Yeah, I mean, safety seems to always run up against free expression and association. We've had this battle on a number of fronts, and we're certainly seeing it here as well. And I think the American experience with its First Amendment and very broad protections generally for speech that would not be tolerated in most of the world, I think puts the American legal education system or education system legally in one of the more challenging positions around the world. And it's testing American values about the breadth and depth of a commitment to free speech that's very challenging for people to experience, and the opportunity of the federal government to protect the safety and integrity of operations of students on campus.
And Professor, for you, who's obviously in working academic institution, who's been teaching for a long time, how concerned are you about what's happening with these schools and what the Trump administration is doing with its mandates?
Well, I've been watching and writing about what I've been calling edupocalypse, which is the crises that are facing American higher education. And it's one of the dimensions, of course, is political, both at the national and local level, down to the state level. But beneath all of this, I think, has been a certain persistent lack of trust in American higher education across the entire body politic. As we would say in the United States, red, blue, and purple have their concerns. And I think the bigger challenge for American higher education is to regain the trust and confidence of the American people, because typically what you see is an industry that's not well trusted by the people of the United States tends to find itself very heavily regulated. And I think we're looking to redefine our operations in a way that is more appealing to more Americans and makes us more worthy in their eyes of the kind of protection and, shall we say, freedom that we've had enjoyed up until this time.
All right, we'll leave it there. Professor Peter Lake, thank you.